The hero of our story suffered greatly from bullying because of his injured leg, even to the point of losing his job. While he didn't know what someone like him could do in this world, a disaster occurred that changed everything, giving him a new opportunity to reach the top and prove himself to everyone. The hero of our story suffered greatly from bullying because of his injured leg, even to the point of losing his job. While he didn't know what someone like him could do in this world, a disaster occurred that changed everything, giving him a new opportunity to reach the top and prove himself to everyone. Our story begins with a young man named Lee Yunho, who received the news of his dismissal from the company due to the economic circumstances of that period. The team leader, feeling nervous about breaking the news, gathered his thoughts and conveyed with deep regret what had happened. He explained that he wished Yunho could continue working with them, knowing how diligent Yunho had been over the past 2 years. Yunho replied that he understood the situation and would start packing his belongings in preparation to leave. His thoughts drifted back to 2 years ago when he began working at the company on a 2-year temporary contract. During that time, he had to prove himself in any way possible to secure a permanent position. Yunho gave his all, completing every task no matter how challenging, just to achieve that goal. However, despite all his efforts over the 2 years, he was unable to secure a permanent position. The scene returned to the present, where the team leader told Yunho not to consider it a true dismissal, but rather what the company now called a restructuring. He emphasized that it was a company decision and asked Yunho not to take it personally. Yunho responded that he wouldn't take it personally and assured him that he held no negative feelings toward him. After that, Yunho silently counted to 3. As expected, the team leader's expression shifted from sadness to a smile, saying he admired Yunho's strength and ability to remain unaffected by such matters. Yunho thought to himself that he had anticipated this reaction. The team leader continued smiling, saying that Yunho would succeed wherever he went. Despite his leg injury, he noted that Yunho was still young, full of energy, and had worked diligently over the past period. He then suggested they go out for lunch to lift Yunho's spirits and invited all the employees to join. However, one of the employees commented that Yunho might not be able to go because of his injured leg. Yunho looked down sadly and told the team leader that he wouldn't be able to go, as the restaurant was too far. He stood up and asked them to go without him, saying he would eat alone. When asked if he was sure, Yunho confirmed, saying he had an appointment with someone, and then left. Yunho went to the rooftop restaurant of the building and sat alone to eat, as he didn't have any actual appointment. He had said that to avoid burdening the employees further. He looked up at the sky thoughtfully, saying he would miss this place. Yunho recalled when he was once the most promising athlete in South Korea. Unfortunately, he couldn't maintain that status for long due to a minor car accident before a practical exam, which left him disabled. Yunho expressed that all he wanted now was to run once more, to the point where his heart felt like it would burst. But he said such a thing was impossible unless you were born anew. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by a voice asking what he had been thinking about so deeply. Turning around, Yunho asked the speaker if she had been there long, but she replied that she had just arrived. The girl was Kim Jun, a temporary employee who had started working at the company a week after Yunho joined, as a secretary. Kim Jun asked Yunho what he had been pondering so deeply. He replied that he was thinking about the new place he would work at. Kim Jun joked, saying there was no need to think about such things. She was shocked when Yunho told her he was fired that very day. Kim Jun immediately apologized, saying she hadn't known what had happened. Yunho reassured her that she bore no responsibility and that it wasn't her fault at all. Kim Jun asked Yunho when he planned to leave his job at the company. He replied that he's still unsure, expecting the company to contact him soon with the details. Suddenly, both hear a voice echoing in their minds, announcing a new notification. Kim Jun, confused, remarked that the voice seemed to resonate inside her head rather than being a typical company announcement. The voice repeated, stating that a mission would begin shortly. Yunho asked Kim Jun if she could hear it too, and she confirmed she did. Yunho and Kim Jun were not the only ones who heard the voice. Everyone present in the area could hear it. Another message arrived, informing everyone that the planet had been sold and would be restructured. However, no one seemed to pay much attention to this message. Yunho commented that it was illogical rubbish. At that moment, a man called out to Kim Jun. Yunho recognized him as Director Choi, the executive from Kim Jun's department, accompanied by one of her colleagues. Upon arriving, Choi asked Kim Jun why she was still sitting there when the lunch break was nearly over. Once again, the voice announced that the mission was about to start. Choi scolded Kim Jun, expressing his disbelief that she was still affected by what he described as nonsense. He continued criticizing her, saying that with her current work approach, she'd never become a permanent employee. He urged her to hurry up so she wouldn't be late. Yoon-ho intervened, assuring Choi that there was no need to worry, pointing out that there were still about 15 minutes left of the lunch break and that they wouldn't be late, even if they sat a little longer. Choi then asked if Yoon-ho was the new trainee, and rudely inquired if he was the one with the leg injury. Kim Jun tried to stop him, but Choi continued, adding that he heard Yoon-ho was dismissed. As expected, he remarked that with a flaw like his, Yoon-ho should live more seriously than others. At that moment, everyone heard a new notification, announcing that the first mission was about to begin. It instructed everyone to enter the green zone that had appeared before them within the allotted time, warning that those who failed to comply would be restructured. A countdown began. Choi commented that he didn't fully understand what was happening, but he found it intriguing. His companion remarked that this seemed like an event organized by the company's gaming division. Choi agreed, commenting on how strange modern technology was, before leaving with his colleague. Yoon-ho felt that there was something suspicious about this event. He noticed Choi and his colleague mocking him, imitating the way he walked. Choi sarcastically suggested Yoon-ho visit an orthopedic doctor for his leg, while the other jokingly added that he should try physical therapy too. Yoon-ho remained unaffected by the mockery, and Kim Jun, noticing this, immediately apologized to him, saying it happened because of her. Yoon-ho reassured her that he's used to such things, but she insisted that it's not something anyone should get used to. As they approached the green zone, Kim Jun asked what they should do next. Yoon-ho replied that they'd reached the area and there was no harm in entering to see what happens. Kim Jun agreed, and the two moved toward the green zone. She marveled at the zone's design quality, wondering if it was just a hologram. Yoon-ho responded that he didn't know, as such things were beyond his understanding. Kim Jin then asked Yoon-ho what he planned to do if he decided to leave his job. He replied that it was a good question, and that he would most likely start looking for a new job. Meanwhile, Director Choi and his companion were at the door, but when they tried to open it, the door didn't respond, angering Choi, who questioned how such a thing could happen. The countdown ended just as Yoon-ho and Kim Jin stepped into the safe zone. Suddenly, Yoon-ho felt a strange sensation, prompting Kim Jin to ask if he was okay. When they looked back, they noticed bizarre things happening to the people outside. A notification then appeared, announcing that the time for the mission had ended and that workforce restructuring would now begin. Choi and his companions' bodies began to disintegrate. Kim Jin was in disbelief at what she was seeing, and Yoon-ho explained to her that everyone who was outside the safe zone had their bodies disintegrate and vanish. Afterward, a property window appeared before Yoon-ho, asking him to select a reward for successfully completing the mission. Yoon-ho was shocked by what he saw and reviewed the information, finding that his health and physical strength were fully restored, except for the issue with his leg. He wondered if he could use the reward to address it. When he pressed on the representation of his leg in the window, a glow surrounded it, and he received a notification that the reward distribution was beginning. Yoon-ho was surprised when his leg improved by only 20%. Kim Jin approaches him and asks if he also sees the property window. He confirms and feels relieved to know he isn't the only one experiencing this. Kim Jin then asks if he has any idea what's happening. He responds that he isn't sure, but since the notification mentioned this being the first mission, it's likely there are more to come, and if they fail, they'll disappear like the others. Kim Jong grows anxious and wonders who could be behind something like this. Yoon-ho replies that he has no idea, but the only certainty is that a new message will arrive soon. As Yoon-ho predicted, they receive a message informing them that the safe zone will change randomly after the next mission begins, giving them 5 minutes to prepare. Kim Jun becomes increasingly tense and asks Yoon-ho what they should do next. He tells her they must move quickly because the second mission will undoubtedly be more difficult. When she asks why he believes that, he explains that the notifications were clear about restructuring, implying that they want to retain only the most valuable individuals. If his theory is correct, the competition will be more intense than in the first mission, and it's likely that fights will break out among the participants. He adds nervously that these battles are inevitable, especially since everyone witnessed others being erased after failing. If that's not enough to cause conflict, people will fight for the mission rewards. Yunho then tests his leg and feels that it's much lighter despite only a 20% improvement. He notices a clear change in his walking. He calls Kim Jin, tells her they need to move now, thinking to himself that this is his chance to change his fate in this absurd restructuring. He tells her the first thing they need to do is search for anything that can be used as a weapon, vowing to do whatever it takes to survive. Kim Jin remains tense, saying she doesn't know what they could find in the office that would work as a weapon, and asks Yunho if he has any ideas. Yunho reflects silently, admitting it will be very difficult to find something suitable for a weapon in a typical office. He then replies that he can't think of anything specific right now, and advises her to grab anything that might prove useful as a weapon on their way. Kim Jin is surprised by Yunho's suggestion and asks if she also needs to carry a weapon. He confirms, emphasizing that she must have a weapon to protect herself. He then adds that they will stay on the rooftop for the next 5 minutes, and if no safe zone appears there, they will immediately descend via the stairs. Kim Jin is puzzled by Yunho's mention of using the stairs and suggests that the elevator would be better, but he explains that the stairs are safer because they might encounter problems if the elevator gets overcrowded or someone tries to disable it. Kim Jin is still visibly worried, asks if Yunho will be able to manage the stairs in his condition. Yunho thinks to himself about how slow and painful his steps are, with every movement causing him significant discomfort. However, he is certain that if he can fully recover his injured leg, the situation will greatly improve. He then reassures Kim Jin, saying that he'll be fine and will push through, even if it feels like his leg might tear apart, to give his best effort until the end. At that moment, a notification announces the start of the mission, displaying a map showing the locations of the safe zones and giving them a time limit of 10 minutes. When Yunho and Kim Jin see the map, they comment on how well distributed the safe zones are and decide to head to the nearest one. They begin descending the stairs, with Yunho visibly struggling due to his injured leg. Kim Jin suggests they take a short break since they still have time, but Yunho insists he's fine and there's no need to rest. Yunho reflects inwardly, acknowledging that the situation is challenging but not comparable to the intense training he underwent before his injury. He feels elated to be able to sense his toes again and hopes the next reward will further improve his leg, perhaps even fully healing it. Kim Jin informs him that they've reached the 19th floor. However, when they enter the area, they find it empty and wonder why. Moments later, people begin rushing into the safe zone. Of course, not everyone enters calmly. Fights break out as some try to take other spots. Observing this, Kim Jin realizes their predictions were correct, commenting on how everyone is fighting as they expected. Yunho replies that he had anticipated a much worse situation. Kim Jin expresses concern that they might not find a spot, but Yunho reassures her that the safe zone can accommodate 100 people, while there are currently only about 50. Kim Jin is astonished and asks how Yunho knows the safe zone's capacity. He explains that he calculated it based on his foot stride length. Kim Jin doesn't understand his reasoning, so Yunho clarifies that his foot stride is about 30 centimeters and a single person can stand within that space. He adds that the safe zone is 16 steps wide and 7 steps long, and multiplying those dimensions gives 112, which is the approximate number of people who can fit inside. Kim Jin is amazed by Yunho's explanation and asks if he always calculates his steps like that. He replies that it's a habit of his, noting that when he was a runner he used to measure distances, and this habit became more obvious after his accident. Kim Jin remarks that what he does is incredible, almost like he has superpowers. Yunho, however, urges her to focus, saying they need to enter now as time is running out. He warns her to stay alert, since they don't know what the people left outside might do. When they enter the safe zone, the area is extremely crowded. Kim Jin comments that it was fortunate they managed to get in quickly. Yunho advises her to stay cautious, and she assures him she would never let her guard down. Suddenly, they hear a voice from outside pleading for them to make some space and let him in. Kim Jin recognizes the person immediately. It's her team leader. He also notices her and calls out for her to pull him in. Kim Jin tries to reach him to help him get inside, but Yunho stops her, warning her not to act recklessly, as her attempt could cause others to push her out as well. The countdown timer appears with only 5 seconds remaining. The team leader shouts desperately for Kim Jin to reach him before the time runs out. Kim Jin rushes toward him, pushing through the crowd to reach him. When she finally grabs his hand, the timer hits 0, but half of his body is still outside the safe zone. Kim Jin tries to pull him in before the timer expires. She pulls him hard, causing them both to fall to the ground. She laughs nervously, remarking that she hadn't expected him to be so light and expressing relief that he had made it into the safe zone. However, when she opens her eyes, she sees that only half of his body is inside the safe zone. Shocked, she begins screaming loudly. Yuno quickly runs to her, pushing through the crowd to reach her. When he arrives, he tries to calm her down, but she is heartbroken, blaming herself and saying that if she had pulled him faster, this wouldn't have happened. Yunho feels a deep sense of unease. Then a notification appears showing the number of deaths, which has exceeded 1,000, leaving only about 700 survivors. He returns to Kim Jun and asks if she can hear him, telling her he understands how overwhelming the situation is, but explains that this isn't the time to mourn, as the next mission will begin soon. He urges her to claim her reward and prepare for the next challenge, but she remains unresponsive. When Yunho realizes there's no way to snap her out of her state, he comes up with a bold idea. He decides to use his current challenge reward to enhance her mental abilities. Though he isn't sure if it will work, he opens his property window and experiments with using the reward in this way. The attempt succeeds, and after canceling the enhancement, he runs back to Kim Jun. He asks if she can hear him, and tells her he has a request for her. He instructs her to open her property window and use her reward to enhance her mental abilities. When Kim Jun follows his instructions, a glow surrounds her. Yunho worries that his plan might have failed and wonders what will happen next. Shortly after, Kim Jun stands up, appearing much calmer than before. She tells Yunho she will quickly change her torn clothes and return. She leaves, and Yunho remarks that this system is truly magical, as it was unnatural for her mood to change so drastically in such a short time. Reflecting on the situation, Yunho notes that he has received 2 rewards so far and feels the need to gather more information to determine his next steps.